This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome into Target Score Weekly. I'm Joey Slattery. That is Taylor Allen. Last week we had our end of season show, but this is the season finale for Target Score Weekly. Season 2 about to be in the books, and we thought what better way to celebrate the end of the second season than having the owner of the Sea Bears, David Asper, on the show. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes. And Taylor, this is 20 episodes we did this year, somewhat weekly, but this was a little bit more of a fun one, I think, too, because we had a lot more to talk about in terms of just how the season panned out. This one was a bit of a roller coaster ride this year, but we had no shortage of things to talk about.
Yeah, well, when you and I met at Leopold's Tavern on Osborne a year and a half ago to brainstorm the vision for Target Score Weekly, which we didn't even have a name for it at that point. One of the things we did is we came up with a list. I think there's probably 20 or so names we had on that list of guests that we will have on the show. And of course, David Asper, the owner of the team, he was one of the first names we wrote down, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen until now. But hey, we're glad it did. No better way to cap off season 2 than with the owner. And you know, I'm not gonna spoil the episode, but I think one of the highlights of the episode was when he was asked, if the team wasn't going to be the Sea Bears, what was the other vision for the team? What was the plan B for the team, or the runner up? And I don't think you guys are going to believe what the answer was. So stay tuned for that. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, David, all around huge sports guy, loves the city. So yeah, it was great chatting with him for so long.
Yeah, and the one thing with this show too is just the scheduling of trying to get on a weekly basis a player and things like that, and the season moves so fast. Sometimes it's either getting a player, or we just have to address something else. So I'm glad that we were able to get this one in before the end of the year, and everything kind of worked out for that. So without further ado, this is our interview. It's a bit of a long one, but I promise you're going to enjoy this one with the owner of the Winnipeg Sea Bears and chairman, David Asper. David, thank you so much for making the time today.
It's great to be here. Finally.
So to put in perspective,
I said to you when you asked me, I said, okay, so you've literally gone through everybody else and there's nobody left. So this is like totally scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I said, okay, well, I guess if I have to do this, if you have to do an episode, I'll help.
And
save the best for last. Best for last, David.
Yeah, we were going through a season of warm-ups before we were able to bring you on. But I mean, this has been an incredible journey, though. I mean, I remember when you had the announcement. We were all at Canada Life Center trying to picture what this was going to look like. Having some knowledge of the CEBL, I'm thinking, wow, this is a big commitment, having to play in an NBA-sized arena, seeing places where I think the record beforehand for most fans at a game was somewhere, I think it was like less than 5,000. And I remember thinking, like, this is awesome, but I really wonder how it's going to go. When you take yourself back to that time and doing all the research that you've done and everything else, what was the biggest worry or the biggest optimism that you had going into this? Because that's a big undertaking.
Well, okay, let me preface also, because if I don't say this, this is a little non-responsive, but I'm just going to tell you that the number one fan of this podcast is my wife, Ruth Asper. And I just have to tell you how many times when I haven't listened to the latest episode yet, she's confronting me with what you guys are talking about. And I don't have any idea what you've been talking about. And even last year, when you were critical of Glenn Yang, she was part of the Yang Gang fan club, and she would get so upset about your being critical of Glenn Yang. And I would say, well, that's their job. Like, just everybody calm down. So thank you. And that actually ties in because what you're doing actually helps give us legitimacy. You're two, well-regarded journalists, and you're creating this media platform. But when we go back to the very beginning, Jason Smith and I had been working on the due diligence for quite some time. And as you know, I mean, we were not originally going to be playing at Canada Life Center because we weren't sure how this would be welcomed into the market, and we were trying to be very conservative and thinking that we should try to start it on a very, very small scale just to see if it would get any traction. And I mean, I had previous experience with the Thunder as a partner, so I saw what that looked like. And we tried to manage what we said at the beginning about what we were going to try to be. And then, coupled with sort of coming out of COVID and wanting to help revive downtown and with the cooperation of True North and Mark Chipman and Kevin Donnelly, we were able to get into Canada Life Center, which then magnified the risk because the cost of doing that is substantial. It's like any business person. When you start a business, if you start a store and you stock it with all your inventory and you invest all that money, when you throw open the doors, is anybody going to show up, or a restaurant or whatever, right? And we were, when I think back, we were very, very nervous. And it was very stressful, and to have had the response that we got from the community is and remains overwhelming.
Hey, all the Glenn Yang bashing was all Joey. I don't think I said anything negative about Glenn Yang ever. Not even once. So just to clear the air there.
I saw Glenn several times through the season, and then of course in Montreal, and it was great to see him. And of course he had a good run with Vancouver this year. But oh man, that was tough last year when you were being journalists. And
well, he did have at least one really big game, and he was at the podium after the game, and afterwards I said to Joey, I'm like, man, he's such a nice guy. I kind of feel like a jerk now. But I mean, you're right. That is, being a journalist, you even if a player is nice, if he's not doing well, sadly, you kind of got to call him out on it. But it's kind of interesting because, I mean, for years when this league started, right, I had so many people talk to me, asking me, like, when is Winnipeg going to get a team? Like, this is a basketball city. We have the market for it. Why don't we have a team? And then the obvious, or the big reason why it wasn't happening was because, like, the facility, wasn't really there. We don't have a junior hockey team size rink, right? We have the U of M, we have the U of W, and then no one else in this league plays in an NHL sized arena. So taking that plunge, it was a big plunge, as you know, obviously. So you kind of touched on it a little bit before, but it was the IGAC, right, at the U of M. That was the plan, the first plan that you guys had before you guys finally said, let's go all into the arena. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. And, and that would have meant a total capacity of 3,000 people, roughly. We would not have had, I don't think, any premium kind of seating. We would for sure not have had anywhere near the game day production assets that you have at Canada Life Center. And so it would have been a very, very different kind of experience there. And by the way, Taylor, you do know that I think you got the tip when Mike Morreale was in town at Sport for Life Center, because you have a little bit of a set of eyes at the front.
Well, I happen to be standing there. So for those that don't know, we've talked about this on the show a couple times about my mom, Pat. She's the first person you see when you walk into the Sport for Life Center. And I just like to go visit her and hang out and whatnot. So one day I'm standing there and we're mid-conversation. She's talking to me about something. Then my head turns to the right and I see Mike Morreale walk through the door, Adam Wedlake from Basketball Manitoba walk through the door, a couple other people wearing CBL polo shirts and stuff. And I was, you as well.
And me. Yes. And you didn't know me.
Well, I knew who you were for sure, but I probably saw Mike Morreale and I was, just caught up with him, I guess. I don't know. So I felt bad to ignore my mom for a second. I was like, hold on a second. I got to see what's happening here. And then you guys all left. And I said, Mom, okay, something's cooking here. And then Adam Wedlake, he walked by later in the day and I said, whoa, Adam, don't run away from me. I got some questions for you. Cause he saw me standing there too. And I think he's kind of like, oh shoot, this was bad timing to walk through the door. So gave him a bit of a hard time with it. But
But part of that site visit was to look at both training facilities, potentially using training facilities at Sport for Life Center, but also the possibility of constructing a playing venue in there. And we tried to look at that option as well, but there were a whole bunch of reasons why that was not going to work. So we were really left with IGAC. And then, kind of at the last minute, we made that change to Canada Life Center. And, we were already super nervous about doing it, but that sort of elevated it. Now, on the other hand, it also expanded our vision of what we could make game day look like. And I give Jason Smith and our production team all the credit, because they then, you know, created what you see and experience now at a Sea Bears game.
When you saw it all come together in that first game, like, what was the nerves like going into that first game? Because I'm sure, like, even like just getting everything set up is probably a rush, and just trying to get to that moment. But that moment, you get to opening day, the gates are about to open, you're probably in the arena just waiting for people to file in. What's that experience like now? Because you've seen everything, you go through your run through, but now it's live. And what are you thinking when you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is it? Like, Sea Bears is now starting. This is the official beginning. And is it a fingers crossed kind of thing? Did you have a good idea of what was showing up? And did you think what was going to be put out would be enough to attract fans to keep coming back?
We had no idea. We literally had no idea. And yeah, at that point, you try to market, you try to promote, you try to create awareness in the market, and then you pretty much throw your fate to the wind, and just see what happens. And there's really, at that point, there's nothing you can really do about it. You can be nervous, which we all were. And there were, all kinds of opening night glitches. Nobody had done this before. Our staff, I mean, I don't, other than Megan Noonan, who played basketball at U of W, we were all pretty much rookies, other than me and Jason, in terms of putting on or being familiar with pro sports. And there we were super fortunate to have the steady hands of a lot of True North Canada Life Center people to help us. And so, we knew that things were basically going to work correctly, but you just stand there and you just wait and see what happens. That's all you can do.
so heading into year one, Joey and I are doing. Or no, we started the show actually midway through the season, I think, actually. So never mind. But I did predict heading into year one that, you know what, expansion team, I don't know. I think they're going to win probably 5 or so games. And, then a couple months go by and the wins are piling up for the Sea Bears. And then I get a nice little email from David Asper saying, oh, enjoying the show, blah, 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 great job. But, oh, by the way, your prediction could have been more wrong. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I deserve that. But now, so then year two comes. Learn from my mistakes. Okay, this team is looking really good, the way they're putting it together. And I say,
on paper, they're going to be the winners on paper.
Yes, yeah, I think I said 15 wins. And as we all know, that did not happen. So clearly, whatever I say, just the exact opposite happened. So keep that in mind for year three for all you sports bettors out there. But just in your opinion, David, me and Joey have been dissecting it this past couple weeks. But in your opinion, just what are your thoughts on this season? What went right, and what ultimately what went wrong in your opinion?
Well, we obviously took a step back. We won 12 last year and we won 9 this year. So that's not the direction you want to be going as a pro sports as any sports organization. And I feel, to be honest with you, I'm still deflated because it was really a roller coaster season. We had the streaks, the 4 wins, the 4 losses. We had turmoil with our players. And then at the end, when we had a chance to actually make a move, we lost by, I think, 3 points against Calgary in Calgary. Played a great game, or a way better road game. that could have gotten us a home playoff game potentially. Then we lost a squeaker in Edmonton. And then we lost a squeaker in the playoff game by 2 points in Calgary. Um, and, I mean, it's deflating because you put target score unto itself is a super emotional way to end the game. But then when you're so invested in a particular, in your team, it magnifies losing tight games at the end. And so I think that, and Mike Taylor has, had his year-end meetings with the coaches and the players. And we've started talking about kind of what happened this year. What did we learn? And what do we need to do for next year? And so we kind of have to lick our wounds and rest a little bit because everybody's super burnt out. This season happens at a very rapid pace over a very relatively short period of time. So everybody's super tired. And then we need to be better. And we're growing as an organization. We're refining words or themes that describe our values as an organization. You can't really write the 10 Commandments as an edict. You have to shape what you want to be, and your culture and how you recruit and the kinds of people you bring in with a little bit of experience, and that's what expansion teams do. And so I consider this to be in one way a step forward because what's clear, and you can see it, even though Vancouver had big stars and individual players, and Niagara, even with Khalil Ahmad and some of their individual players, they play team ball. This is a team sport. And I think Mike Taylor would agree, and he's talked about this, about being a team and playing as a team. And that's especially important in a short season where you are going to have natural churn with some of your players who are playing international. And so I think what we saw this year was a year where we had times when we played well as a team and times where we didn't. And so once we get over being deflated and tired, like I say, we're gonna dust ourselves off, pick ourselves up, and literally we start all over again.
How unique is that as a business owner? I mean, a typical business, you might have a bad week, a bad day, a bad month, but you kind of go through it and it's just, an ongoing flow throughout the longevity of the business. But with sports, this one particularly, it's so concentrated into a summer. And then when you're going through this, you got all this plans, all the, throughout the off season, you put together this roster that you're very confident about, but then you start seeing the struggles and it's kind of out of your control in a sense because, you've got the resources in place, but you're kind of sitting there as an owner watching it unfold positively or negatively, but you can't really do anything in the moment to help that. As that position, as the owner, I mean, what is that experience like where you're kind of watching everything unfold so quickly, but also kind of just having to trust other people that, the players will get it done, the coaches, the managers, the front office, but not being able to really do much yourself in the moment?
I learned the hard way through my experience, over a very long period of time with the Bombers, that if you want to be in a leadership position in pro sports, you have to come to terms with the fact that that is the reality of pro sports. There's quite often you can't do anything about it as the season is unfolding. I mean, there's certain things you can try, you can switch personnel. Sometimes teams, get rid of coaches or general managers or whatever. I've learned that that's probably not the best thing to do. And so you have to just let it unfold, communicate well with the professionals who are in place to run your sports, your basketball program. And from my perspective, all I can do is I can I can change the socks that I can wear that I wear to the game. I can change the hat that I wear to the game. I can change my clothes. I can try to, you know, uh, deal with my superstitions, but you've got to be comfortable with that's the nature of pro sports. Took me a long time. Took me a very long time, especially with the Bombers, to understand that. And now I'm quite at peace with that reality.
Well, speaking of change, I mean, last year I think Teddy Allen could have ran for mayor and he probably would have won. And then this year, you know, his tenure in Winnipeg comes to a screeching halt. Obviously, you know, we're not trying to dig through the weeds or whatever, but just what was it like for you, David? Obviously, you knew him as a person, you know, and whatnot. He spoke highly of you and whatnot. So just what was it like for you at that time, seeing how that his tenure here didn't end the way that, you know, everyone with the team wanted it to see it end? Obviously,
It was terrible, and I wrote to Teddy. I told him I tried to talk with Teddy before it became fully unraveled, and I thought we had a good conversation. Um, and I told him afterwards, that I loved him, and I do. I think he did amazing things for our organization to help us launch. He did great things in the community, but Teddy uh, Teddy had a challenging life, and it's difficult for him now as an adult to manage things, adversity particularly, because he didn't get life skills. And so my heart wants to reach out and hug him and help him. At the same time, we're a professional sports organization, and we have to be committed to a way of doing things that sometimes leads you into having to make tough decisions about individuals. And one of the things I wanted to make sure that we as an organization were going to be prepared to live with was making those tough decisions according to the values of who and what we are. And Mike, but Mike was obviously at the forefront of all of those discussions, and at the end of the day it was a big decision. And so I got brought into some of those discussions, and I'm actually glad. I'm sad that we lost Teddy and it didn't work out, but I'm glad that as an organization we had the wherewithal and the spine to say, this is who we are and this is just not going to work, and so we're going to move on. And I think that will stand us in good stead over the long term.
Well, and the one thing that I noticed with that is when that decision came down to me, that was really where I understood the passion of the Sea Bears is not only a novelty, if that makes sense, like the new team in town. It seemed with Teddy Allen, he was able to help develop that fan base where you had that star to build around. And I am a believer in terms of having that star player to build around does help, sell tickets and get people connected to your team. In that same breath, you have that there are people that were really upset with it, right? Not knowing everything about it. It was kind of a shock, and you're losing the star player who was hanging on the side of Canada Life Center. But on the same breath that they still came to those games, right? And then they go on a win streak. But this year, despite the challenges, really it was on the road where it was really hard. But there were some very entertaining games here. And then you set the record last year only to beat it this year with 86 plus thousand fans throughout the season coming to 10 games. When you talk about the support and what growth came out of this, what do you think has been key to getting fans out here and developing that fan base that has now become passionate and really puts the Sea Bears, in my opinion, into the pro sports fabric of Winnipeg?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that if you recall the game against Sask, where we beat them toward the end of the season, how the fans welcomed Teddy back every single time, like right through to the end of the game. This was not like when Line A comes back with Columbus and the Jets they boo him for half the game. Every single time he touched the ball, the fans booed him, which which I think he kind of enjoyed actually. But so to your point though, we have, I would say, probably two categories of people who come to our games. There are the people who are increasingly becoming serious fans of the team and of the sport. Um, and then there are people who may not be familiar with basketball, may have never gone to pro basketball, who hear that it's a fun and an intense environment and they're sampling it. And when they do that, they come away, win or lose, actually. And we won most. I think it was 8-2 at home.
8-2, yeah.
8-2. Even in the two losses, because of target score, it's exhilarating. So when you leave, you've generally seen something that's fast paced, it's entertaining, and there's a bit of drama at the end that leaves you with your heart beating and feeling like this was worth your time and your money. And word is traveling about that, and so we're trying to not be a pro sports event where people are going to live or die with winning and losing, because it's a game. Like it's just a game, and someone's going to win and somebody's going to lose. But did we compete? Did we battle? Did we try? And did you, by going to that event, feel, as I say, like it was worth it? And then we follow through with customer service. And what's happening is, yes, large numbers of people, large unanticipated numbers of people are saying, yeah, that's a good thing. And we're still humbled and grateful. And I'm about to, as part of what I do at the end of the season, I start writing thank you notes to people with a personal touch. And I try to, all of our staff try to be accessible to our fans and everywhere. And I think that's winning people over.
Well, you might not
And
want
by the way, I can tell you this is happening in Edmonton. This is happening in Vancouver. I just had a call yesterday with the owners of Vancouver and Calgary. It's happening right across the West. And they're, they don't play in the same size venue, but this is growing. And this is the same thing is happening in other markets.
Well, you might not want the fans to live and die with every Sea Bears result, but for you as the owner, I mean, when my fantasy football team loses, David, I mean, that's the team that I own. I'm miserable, right, for a week. So for you, an actual team, we actually know the people on the team. When they lose, like, take us through that night or the next 24 hours. Like, are you not an enjoyable person to be around after a tough Sea Bears loss, or how do you kind of ride the roller coaster of the season, I guess?
No, again, I had to learn this the hard way. I mean, I was involved with the Bombers starting in the mid '80s and right through the mid 2000s, and I spent my life, including the Jets, for a long time, really living or dying with the success or failure of the team emotionally. And it actually boiled over. I had a little famous episode where I actually had a midbrain seizure, um, where the loss was so I internalized it so badly, and I actually had to have a counselor tell me, look, you've got to find a different way. You got to figure out a different way to manage this. It's okay to be all in, but you've got to regulate wins and losses. Like like it's not the end of the world. And I had to train myself to kind of flatten that line out. And it was a hard lesson to learn, and I learned it a long time ago, like decades ago. And so, as much as I feel emotionally tied to winning and losing, you have to try to. I have to consciously try to keep it level. and let the people who play the game, who coach the game, let them manage and channel the emotion. There's really nothing I can do about it. And in the moment. And so I try not to, as I say, I am still super deflated about the way our season ended. Um, um, and you can walk around a little bummed out, but you don't, life goes on, right?
How hard is that when you look at last season, particularly? You're sitting courtside every game too, right? So, but it seems like you're having fun, and you were traveling a lot, particularly last year, where you'd be seen on TV wearing the big Sea Bears chain and the hat and everything else. But how much fun has this been? I know it's challenging, a lot of challenging things that we don't see. But when you're able to go out there and enjoy the product and see what you put together, see the people, because it is every team that comes through here talks about the electricity in the stadium, the atmosphere at Canada Life Center, and how it's not really a home advantage because every player wants to bring their best to Winnipeg because of the environment that they're playing in. But how much fun is that for you when you can sit there and just kind of take it in as a sports fan and kind of watch the what you were able to create right in front of you and seeing people enjoy it? Because in business, that's one thing. You can share the business, but you don't often get to see it in the way that you're doing, where you've got anywhere from 6,500 to 11,000 people watching and supporting all at once.
I was a terrible student, and but it took me until I got to law school before I actually won a prize at anything, um, other than where they gave it for participation. Um, and um, the first prize I ever got was promoting academic achievement in others. And so what I get my joy from in this project, really, is to see our staff, our young staff, succeeding, and then when I walk around and I meet the people who are coming to the games, and whether it's kids making signs or using the Papa shots or getting tattoos or taking pictures with Churchill. I love My joy is seeing that they're having a good time. And then when we win a game and the players erupt, that is a joyful thing. Um, and so I don't. My joy is actually in others succeeding. And I think I've been like that for a long time, um, this has been very fulfilling. Actually, it's seeing that, because a lot of people are enjoying themselves, and as I say, finding that it's worth their time and their money to be doing this.
This is going to sound like a job interview question, but where do you see the Sea Bears 5 years from now? I think, the first year you guys just needed to focus on the present, obviously, but now 2 years in, clearly this is working. I mean, you go for a drive anywhere in Winnipeg, chances are you'll see someone walking down the street wearing a Sea Bears hat, Sea Bears shirt, leading the league in attendance 2 years in a row. So, I mean, I'm sure you're not going to rest on your laurels. So 5 years from now, like, how do you make this thing even bigger? Like, what's kind of the vision, I guess?
Well, this year was another year toward us finding out what's normal and what is sort of going to be our normal and sustainable. And I think we're already seeing signs of further growth as we go into our third year. But it's obviously not unlimited growth, in terms of our game day and our attendance and all that kind of stuff. Where there is massive opportunity for growth clearly is in community programs. I was looking at, somebody was sending me pictures last night from the Mayfair Court project that we did, and the courts were absolutely packed with full games going on. And I know that St. John's, which we did last year, is also very active. And I think that we're helping promote the growth of the sport of basketball in Manitoba and the participation rate. And so it depends when you say, where are we going to be in 5 years? I think we're going to achieve some sort of quote unquote normal for what is our attendance and sort of what does that look like. I think we're going to work hard to have a team identity that we can sustain and maintain so that people know what to expect and the kinds of players who will play within that team identity. And then, I think that our role in the community and the community impact that we're having is actually unlimited, and that's where I think we can continue to make big strides.
That Mayfair project. So I drive by that quite regularly at different hours of the day on my route home, and it is slam. My wife and I were just talking about that actually not too long ago, that there's always games. At one point there was a tournament or something the other day. It looked like there'd be like 100 people there. I don't know what was going on, but I'm driving by renovation to that place. I never really saw, maybe a person here or there, but it has been, I didn't expect that to see that many people enjoying it. And it has been really cool to see. And it looks awesome. It just spruced up that area, where you just had basically some cracked concrete and whatever, maybe a tennis net and some hoops. Now you've got that whole design. The artist did a wonderful job. That was awesome to see. I really enjoy seeing that.
Well, that partnership with Buckets and Borders is key, and we're going to be doing more, and we're going to be expanding that program, and there will be legacy projects coming out of championship weekend. And it's sort of one of the things that we didn't really fully anticipate was the community impact piece of this. And it's, when we talk about bringing joy again, or sort of what do I get out of this, the fact that we can try to do well as a business and do good in the community is really a virtuous circle for me and for Jason and for our whole organization. Mayfair is a great example of that.
Great segue, because that's where I wanted to go next. Obviously, a huge season next year with Championship Weekend 25 coming to Winnipeg. It's been highly touted already. It was the earliest announcement for a championship weekend host city, like earlier this year before the season started. And there's been already some hype around this event, and it's now a year away. What are some of those, I guess, challenges, excitement coming into next year? What are some of the important pillars, I guess, that you have to establish next year? Just knowing that not only do you have an expanded season going from 20 to 24 games, but then you're hosting Canada West Weekend, which will be a little later in the summer, I assume, just because of the with the added games. But what are some of the important things that have to be focused on this year, just with it being so unique?
Well, it puts a significant additional obligation on the organization, because we want to do a better season, regular season for our team and our fans next year, just generally. And then on top of that, we have to plan an entire championship weekend, and we want to make this a championship weekend that will knock it out of the park for Winnipeggers and Manitobans, and all of Canada. And we've got some things planned that I think will, if they're successful, we'll do that. But it's going to take a ton of work. And on top of all the work that we have to do just to put on the season. So, it's going to be a bit of a challenging year, but we're up for it. Jason Smith's got a ton of experience, and I've said it many times. I was co-chair of the 2015 Grey Cup, and we hired Jason as the CEO of that Grey Cup festival. And I think I'm biased, but I think it was the best Grey Cup festival that has ever been staged. The most inclusive, the most local. I don't know if you remember that, but in other cities where they bring the Grey Cup in on a helicopter or all that, we loaded it up on a Red River ox cart at the lower Fort Garry gate, and we had Chief Dennis Meaches from Dakota Teepee on horseback in his regalia, leading a group of historical-looking Winnipeg figures, Métis and Scottish settlers and all that, down Broadway, and made it a really unique local thing. And I think you're going to see a lot of that kind of creativity around the excitement of hosting a national basketball championship. And I'm really excited. I think people are going to be. I think people are again going to find that it's worth doing and worth participating in it. And of course, Winnipeg, because of the playoff structure, will play in the semifinal on the Friday night. So we're hoping that the free throw boo birds will be out big time. Because that will be probably a pretty exciting game.
I have to say that was probably one of the best Instagram posts I've seen in a while from a team, where they posted every individual's like season stats at the foul line and how cool. They perform in Winnipeg. I thought that was brilliant. So hats off to whoever came up with that one.
Well, we stole it from the Bombers with their illegal procedure. Defense likes it loud, right?
That's awesome. I'm excited. I know a lot of people are curious as to see what it's going to look like. I know it's going to be a lot different from what we've seen in the past, and I'm really excited to see what that festival is, because I know it's cool. I don't know. I know people have differences with Canada or with the championship weekend, and we'll move on to target time in just a second. But the thing I like about it, David, is that it does put a crowning jewel on the CEBL, an event that you can sell. Tough part is in the last two seasons, particularly, you saw the host city not perform very well and still get in. And so therefore one deserving team is left on the outside looking in.
Well, and last year in Vancouver, which was at the bottom of the West, nearly beat Calgary, and Montreal nearly beat Niagara this year.
Yeah. It's like, that's the thing. It's one game, right? If you can win it.
Yeah.
The one thing I would like to see, I don't want to do away with championship weekend. I know that'll be a discussion down the road for the league and how they go about it. But I would love to see more emphasis because like you said, it's the semifinal for the league. But I would love to see an emphasis on the conference final, where if you're the host team, you get to host that and you actually win something, like in the NBA, right? If you win the conference, there's a mini celebration before you go to the next one, just like the NHL, just like the NFL. I would love to see that, where it's as opposed to a weekend. And I know it's not the Grey Cup and the CFL is different, but I would love to see it around the one event where it's like, we're going to have that whole thing, the awards, the celebrity all-star game, whatever, and then have the big championship game that everybody's there. I know it'll take some time for the league to get there, but I would love to see a conference championship where the host team, if they win, can celebrate with their fans, or the fans experience that loss of a championship game.
I was trying to console one of the owners of Vancouver by reminding him he's the Western Conference champ.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No, well, did you feel well, as a Bombers fan, David? Did you feel good about the back-to-back Grey Cup losses with them being Western Division champions?
No,
probably not. So yeah,
no.
But at least there you go. At least you get to watch those, like the conference championship at home, right? So it doesn't matter, because the hard part with the Grey Cup is you got to go somewhere else more often than not. Rarely do you see the host team in the Grey Cup. So if you're a team that's playing well and you're not going to host the championship because you have to go to the destination, which again, I like, it would be nice to celebrate something on the way there with the fans. And not only that, from a business perspective, the tickets sold, merchandise that you can sell from that. I just feel there's a little bit more we can make of the conference champion.
I know that, and it may start in the fall. I mean, our league board is going to start talking about playoffs after 25. Mm-hmm. And, we'll see where those discussions go. There's no shortage of input. Trust me.
I could imagine.
Yeah, I bet.
What do you say, Taylor? Is it time?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
All right, David, You ready for target time?
Wait, I got to get my notebook here so that I can write these down. Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead. I'm very nervous. This is what has kept me awake all night. Okay, let's go.
All right, it's time for target time. A reminder for everybody, this is the slowest rapid-fire questioning you're ever going to experience. Taylor, I'll give you the honors of going first today.
Okay. David, deal or no deal? The Winnipeg Sea Bears win the 2025 CEBL Championship, but the Saskatchewan Roughriders this year win the Grey Cup. Deal or no deal?
I have to say, take the Sea Bears. I have to.
Yeah.
And oh man.
Are you wearing your Bombers Hall of Fame ring right now? Yeah, right there you go. There you go.
When I worked in Saskatchewan, and they used to have a legendary guy named Tom Shepard who led all the community fundraising efforts. And I was working for our TV station in Regina, running our 2 stations in Regina and Saskatoon. Literally within a day, Shepard shows up he was a real estate developer and a big advertiser. He shows up at the office with a certificate and a little plaque where they appointed me to the rider board. and it was just before the LDC. And I your question reminds me of that moment. It's very triggering, and I'm very puckered right now, but I'm gonna go with Sea Bears win.
We asked a similar question to Mike Morielli, a CFL CBL question, and it was along the lines of, do you give up target time or do you add a 4th down? You could only pick one and one has to change, and which one do you go? And he had a similar reaction of, he ended up going with keep target time and add the 4th down, but he had to give a lot of preface that he loves the Canadian game. So I like these responses. And having lived in Regina and Winnipeg, I'm from Ontario initially, but really seeing both fan bases up close, really have a good understanding of how tough that would be, because in Saskatchewan, that's a huge honor, right? If you're getting that as a Rough Rider, Rough Riders fan, and seeing that, but as a Blue Bomber, that's Blue Bombers fan, that's got to be tough.
Oh, you have no idea how hard it was going to that Labor Day Classic game. And then and then my youngest son, Max, was born in Regina.
Oh no.
So it's very complicated.
I've actually heard Max in action say that he's from Regina, but then very quickly say that he's a Bombers fan. So I've seen that in action. That's a tough one, being from a Winnipeg family, but the one Asper born in Regina, right? So that's the. Yeah. I see. If I were a brother, I'd be picking on that totally. I'd be like,
his brother does.
I can imagine.
His brother does.
I can imagine. Let's stick with the Bombers then. Which Blue Bomber would you like to see dress for the Sea Bears?
Oh, that's pretty easy. Well, I got to tell you, the Willie Jefferson episode. Anybody who's listening to this needs to go and listen to the Willie Jefferson episode, because it was a great episode, and he dissed Stanley so badly. I actually told Stan,
so did I,
that he better listen to it. Okay, but a little game within the game story. So Stan was sitting on the baseline seats courtside in year 1, and Nick Ward was making his presence felt very clearly on the court, and there got to be a little bit of chirping from those baseline seats involving Nick Ward, and Nick actually won the chirp battle and then slammed the ball down. And I would like to see Stan playing the post for us with a little Nick Ward matchup.
There it is. There's that interior presence that Mike Taylor was talking about that at the postseason conference. We just got to get Stanley over to the Sea Bears. Let's see if we can make that happen. That's awesome.
Well, a couple of days after we had that chat with Willie, Stanley was in town. He did a press conference, and on that episode, for those that don't know, Willie said Stanley would be the worst basketball player on him and Shane Gauthier, good French Canadian boy. So we finished the presser with Stan. He's walking off, and I was like, "Oh, Stan, by the way, I got to tell you something." I was talking hoops with Willie the other day. He said you'd be the worst basketball player on the team. And he actually seemed hurt. He's like really? Like, why did he say me? And I was like, well, he said it's because you're a little older, I guess. But yeah, he's like, man, what the hell? So he stormed off. So I'm sure he gave Willie a hard time for it the next time he saw it. But yeah, I like that pick. I'm sure Stan has some moves in the post. So good pick.
Yeah. Oh, I don't need him to have a lot of moves. I need him to have happy feet a little bit and set a good screen and have a good blocking arm.
Yeah. There you go. David, who is your owner inspiration? I mean, you look at the NBA especially, there's so many colorful characters, the owners, the Steve Ballmers, the Mark Cuban. So which one of those owners, whether it's a NBA person or a different sport, who's maybe your pro sports owner inspiration, or even just favorite owner?
I think it's probably an amalgam of I don't know that there's one individual. I do like the way Cuban has always been accessible, and even if highly opinionated, and sometimes he meddles, I guess, a little bit periodically, but people can talk to him, and he listens to people, and so that is important to me. If you go to any pro sports organization, whether it's, you can look at the Rooney family in Pittsburgh for the Steelers. You can look at the Kraft organization with the Patriots, the 49ers organization. Look at, the leading NBA organizations. They stand for something. They're definable, and they try to be consistent, and their owners try to live those values. And so one way or another, I probably cherry pick things from a group of people and a group of owners. And as I say, I've made probably every mistake that anybody in a sports leadership position can make. So I do learn from my mistakes, I hope. So I don't think I would point to any one inspiration there.
Okay, so sticking with the ownership thing then, what is the most, so you've been with the Bombers, you have some background even in basketball with the Thunder, but now as the owner, owning and operating the Sea Bears, what is the most unexpected element, whether that be fun or challenging, that comes with operating and owning a basketball team, particularly in Winnipeg?
Well, let's just be clear, I do not operate it. I am self-aware enough to know that somebody else needs to be doing that, because I will mess it up for sure. And there were periods last summer where Jason Smith had medical issues, and I did have to step in. And I think the staff may not have the fondest memory of me stepping in, but it was all hands on deck. The most unexpected thing, I'm overwhelmed. I've said it already in this conversation. I'm overwhelmed by the goodwill and the peace and love and reaction of this community toward what we're doing. That was very, very unexpected. And even when we're making a mistake, the fact that we own it and we talk to people and we, try to make it better. I'm just overwhelmed at how people embrace us. I did not expect that.
Well, especially when you look at the two teams before, right? You had the Cyclones and the Thunder, years and years ago, and for different reasons had, 10 years that had to end. So I'm sure there was a lot of doubt there too, just in terms of, this is twice before it didn't work out. So it is a big risk, but I have to say I was shocked. I mean, I knew it would be well received, but I think it was the first game for sure. But for me, it was that playoff game when you hit the 5 digits in fans, like getting to 10 and opening the upper deck. That was something that I would hope you would get to, but I didn't know if it would happen in year one, even at a playoff game. So it's that's been kind of cool to see too.
Well, I've told the story about that game, or I think it was the game before, actually. The game before, I think, was against Edmonton and would have clinched, I think, first place, if I recall correctly. And our game day production people went and got a confetti cannon. And I said, well, not sure about that confetti cannon because, we could lose the game. And if we lose the game, what then? And it was an interesting conversation because it included all of our, or many of our game day volunteers and some of the Canada Life Center staff. And they said, no. Even if we lose, we're going to blow off the cannon because we're going to celebrate the fact that we had 10 times to get together here and enjoy this basketball and enjoy this presentation and be together and have a good time together and have this shared common experience. And that is worth celebrating. And I had to do a bit of a double take on that. And you know what? And that is, I think, what is sort of driving the way people treat us and react to us. And I just didn't expect it.
Confetti cannons are okay, but never hang a banner unless you win a championship. The Colts to this day still get roasted for having that AFC finalist banner. So as long as you don't do something like that, David, shoot away with the confetti. I think it would be okay.
Okay.
But but when you first announced the arrival of pro basketball returning to Winnipeg, you told the story of how you came up with the team name, the Sea Bears and whatnot. But if the team wasn't going to be the Sea Bears, though, what was the runner-up? If there was one.
Oh man, I don't know if I should even say this. Jason Smith is going to kill me. I can tell you. I'll tell you where I was headed until Jason put his arm around me and said, "Let's just think about that." I was going to go with coconuts.
Coconuts.
I was headed to let's go nuts. Let's go nuts. We were going to be the nuts. And we were going to create this tropical summer tiki thing, like the Savannah Bananas sort of in that vein.
Yeah.
And I spent I must have spent a week going down a wormhole watching everything that the Savannah Bananas did, their baseball team in the U.S. If you haven't seen the Savannah Bananas,
they're the Globetrotters of baseball.
Just be careful how deep you go because and I was trying to come up with something that was totally off the charts. Not Winnipeg. And thankfully we didn't do that.
Did you guys have a prototype logo and
beautiful,
jersey? Did you have a prototype logo and jersey mock-up, or the dream didn't go that far?
No, it was just in my twisted brain, and then Jason and a couple of others, my wife, said, that's a really bad idea.
The idea might be a little coconuts. Yeah.
That's just a really bad idea. And maybe you should just go back to the drawing board. And then I've told the story, total fluke. Literally almost a year ago to the day we're recording this, I'm standing at the zoo in the tunnel under where the bears swim. And I start taking pictures with my camera. And this bear, the bear head logo that you see, I've got that photo on my phone where the bear just swam right up to my face in the glass, and I took the picture. And I said, ooh, and the colors of the water were actually the colors of what we are. So I got lucky because coconuts might not have worked.
I would love to see that picture. That's really interesting. The thing I like about the logo kind of reminds me of when Memphis, the Grizzlies rebranded to that bear face. It's just very clean. I do appreciate that. The coconuts, because I get Savannah Bananas. There's some alliteration there. You've got the Saskatoon berries, which is an actual fruit, right? Winnipeg coconuts, though, that's I appreciate though the wide range and not eliminating everything, giving everything full thought and really thinking it all through. But I would love to see a mock-up of some coconuts merch.
Well, I think I'm not sure that it was gentle persuasion or me easily letting go of it. I think everybody basically hit me with a 2x4 and said, "You've lost your mind." So let's not.
That's funny.
Okay, I respect you for trying to be different, but yeah, that was. I'm glad that was Plan B.
I'm enjoying the segue to these questions because my next one is, if you could bring the Sea Bears anywhere in the world for one game, like a tour, where would you want to bring them to play? Because there's a lot of basketball wild markets around the world.
I have to be careful because Brandon and Steinbach, as of yesterday, both want us in their places.
Preseason games would be great there, but we don't really have a preseason.
You know where I think it would be crazy is in the Philippines, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I've actually, we've had some approaches about that. It's just not logistically possible. But I think it would be, it'd be kind of cool to play a Sea Bears game in Churchill, actually.
Oh, that would be really
very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
the real
someplace.
Sea Bears.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a whole. We haven't done it yet, but when we landed on Ursus maritimus, which is Latin for sea bear, we actually thought about building a storyline around the animal and the habitat and conservation and all that. And I believe that's valuable. I think there's education value. I think it deepens our brand. So it'd be cool to go and do it up north, somewhere north of the Arctic Circle where the bears live.
That would be really cool. I was not expecting that. That'd be a really cool place to see a basketball game, like the Sea Bears particularly. Got to make an outdoor court though, like by the bay. Do it like, you know what I mean? Like you see the Olympics and how they had those cool settings, and college basketball does. They've had it on boats and whatever else. It'd be kind of cool. I don't know if that would be logistically possible, but imagine that having that as.
And you could and Joey, you could be the sideline reporter, and we'll stick bacon in your pockets, and then the Bears will come and you'll get to.
That's starting to remind me
idea
now.
a lot, actually.
Get out of here, Taylor. Have you seen Semi-Pro, the Will Ferrell movie? That now I'm seeing myself wrestling a bear and yelling Spumoni. Yeah. Well, Chad's dad often shows up as Jackie Moon. Yes, love that.
Yeah,
it's like a national game thing. Every time TSN's there, we got Jackie Moon, Jackie Moon posthumous.
Yeah.
Going in a much different direction. We all know you're a huge sports fan, David, but do you have a favorite wrestler of all time?
Oh, absolutely. Crusher.
The Crusher, not the Bruiser.
This is before your. This is before your time. The Crusher's got a statue in Milwaukee. Really? He trained with kegs of beer on his shoulders. And that's how he and Crusher's big nemesis was Mad Dog Vachon. And so when I was growing up, my little brother, he always had to be Mad Dog so that the bigger brother could be Crusher and, lay him out. And then many years later, I was a camera operator at CKND TV, which is now Global in Winnipeg. And I would go and do the wrestling interviews at a local hotel after they would do the,
And that's like prime kayfabe, so you're getting them like in character too, I imagine.
Oh, fully in character.
What was your best interview or most memorable one?
Well, Crusher had lost the night before to Mad Dog, and they wheeled him into the room for the interview on a gurney with an IV and a very this was it's not appropriate now, but a very attractive, scantily clad nurse tending to Crusher, and Crusher was all worried about his girlfriend Dolly, I think. It was an epic
That's incredible.
But I used to go. I convinced the Manitoban when I was in university at the U of M. I convinced the Manitoban that they should have a wrestling reporter, and it should be me. And I used to go and write wrestling stories for the Manitoban, which absolutely drove the academics and all the smarty pants people at the university crazy.
Well,
they should bring it back. There's the local
free
wrestling
press.
ring.
Yeah, well, whenever I pitch a wrestling story to the free press, that's the same reaction I get. It drives everyone crazy.
Yeah.
But I still do. I still do anyways.
I had not watched wrestling since I was a kid. And then I came here and I went to, was it AEW was in town, and it kind of like sparked that live wrestling. You know, I never got to go much as a kid. We didn't have wrestling, a lot of wrestling happening in Timmins, Ontario. But then I got into, was it the Winnipeg Pro Wrestling, the little promotion they have here that they at the West End Cultural Center. And it is awesome. Like, it is diehard. You immerse yourself in that. There's like, you talk about like, they do a show once a month. They have some bigger shows. They have one coming at the Burton Cummings Theater in October. But like, you go to,
I just saw that.
Yeah, I got my tickets because I'm not missing. I missed it last year. But the atmosphere there and the fans, at how much they get into it, and now the storylines they develop, it's a lot of fun. And I didn't realize how much pro wrestling was huge in Winnipeg. And I think the Manitoban, the Free Press, maybe we get a wrestling beat. I think it's time.
That's my dream gig.
My brother through Fight Network and his other channels is into wrestling.
TNA,
and I believe. Oh yeah, and I keep telling him, you know, with the state of politics in the world these days, it is so ripe for what a lot of people would consider are offensive storylines. Mm-hmm. Which is what makes wrestling succeed. And I'm very worried that wrestling is getting pulled into sort of political correctness because, the best eras were where the storylines were like off the charts.
Yeah.
Like you would literally pick your enemy in the world, in world politics.
There was an interview, not to get too off topic, but Vince Vaughn was asked something similar about like why are comedies not as funny as they were 10, 15 years ago, and he had a similar answer to that. And he was optimistic that it's going to sway the other way. Like, that is the point of comedy. It's not, it's to make you laugh, because it is kind of overblown, right? Like you're putting a spotlight on the things of the day, putting some satire to it or whatever it may be to make it fun. This was not my planned target time question, but now I have to ask it. If David Asper were a wrestler, what would be his ring name?
The Coconut. David the Coconut Asper.
Oh, I've never thought of that. I've actually never thought of that.
Mine, because I was a 90s wrestling fan, 90s, early 2000s, mine would be Marty Gravity. Because I'm letting the fans know what they're getting ahead of time. No high-flying moves. I am not leaving the mat. That would be my name. It's fun.
Ground game.
True.
I like
You
it.
play the ground game.
Totally. Probably
Taylor, have you got a wrestling name?
Oh, man. As a diehard wrestling fan, you would think that I would have one. But, actually, when I was in high school, I emailed Lance Storm. He was a WWE, WCW wrestler, ECW wrestler. I emailed him like, hey, man, I'm curious about maybe getting into wrestling. What do you charge for your wrestling school, whatever? And he got back to me, and I'm like, man, nah, I'll just watch it on TV. So that was the closest I got to, dabbling in that world. But who knows? You never.
There's a wrestling school here.
Maybe you come back from your trip and you've got this big mane of hair, and you've got like a scar across your forehead, and you've turned into this savage animal from the jungle.
Maybe.
And Janelle doesn't know who you are anymore.
You could be
that's her worst nightmare for this trip, because that could very well happen. So
yeah.
So if you had one, David, what do you think it would be?
I can't think of it. Isn't there a wrestling name generator that you can Google?
You know what? I'm going to do it right now.
I think there is.
Wrestling.
I like how this has turned into a wrestling podcast.
While Joey does that,
you know,
or do you got it right?
You know, we've had messages from fans who want wrestling as part of the Sea Bears games.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
probably
opposed to
room behind the basket there where you guys have the music for rings. So yeah, why not?
South Pole wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's tough. This is okay. You can ask your question, Taylor. We'll come back to mine.
All right.
Got to find a better name generator.
My last Target Time question. And I asked Jared Okunbemi Jackson this months ago, and I think he hated the question, but I like the question, so I'm going to ask it anyways. Who's the most famous contact you have in your cell phone?
I'd have to check. At one time, I had Prince Edward.
Prince Edward?
Yeah. His wife actually was working with us when I was working in England. And I had both of their contacts in my phone.
Okay, that's
and Joey, by the way, Joey finally sent me his cell phone number, so I've got him in there now.
No, I said most famous, not least famous. So
ouch,
yeah.
ouch, dude.
Can I check?
Sure,
go for it. My favorite one for that question was one time I had to interview Bob Barker, and it had nothing to do with game shows. He had said something random about spring bear hunting in Northern Ontario, and I was a journalist up there at the time. And I remember going into work thinking one of the mayors of the towns had brought it up, and I was like, I'm going to interview Bob Barker today. I come hell or high water, Bob Barker is going to be interviewed. And sure enough, using the contacts, I was we had our company had an entertainment station, so I contacted one of the producers, and then I had to get the number. I had to call exactly at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and to set it all up. And then I call, and I remember I'll never forget it because he answers the phone in the classic voice, and he's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Hi, I'd like to speak to Mr. Bob Barker, please." He's like, "Joey, you're speaking to Mr. Bob Barker." I was like, "Oh my gosh,
wow!"
Yeah, so I had to keep it professional. I asked my questions, but then after, off the record, I had a bunch of questions to ask him, and I learned a lot about him, like even his upbringing. Like he was, I want to say it was Washington, where he was born on. He was like a reservation. It was like he had a really interesting story that how he rose up, but I never deleted. I don't even know if that was like his real number, but in my phone, I think it might still be there as Bob Barker. That was my favorite one. Who's yours?
I can't give you an answer. I believe I have Prince Edward, but that would have been a number that I had in the mid 90s.
Let's just call it and see.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, let's test that out.
No. I'd have MI6 at my door, and I'd be lying face down and taped to the ground probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not ideal.
Well, here, I've got options for you. I went through a generator and it gave me 10 names.
Okay.
So you could be the menacing marauder, the sinister shadow, the vicious viper. That one's all right. The ruthless raptor, the wicked warlock, the diabolical destroyer, or the merciless madman, savage serpent, evil enforcer, or sinister Scrooge. I thought it was
just a minute.
Scoured.
Just a minute. Now that I think of it, why not Crusher? Crusher's dead.
Yeah, okay.
It's up for grabs.
There was a Crush though too. There was like in the 90s. There's not Crusher.
There was
Crush. Yeah.
It was Crusher. And his famous move was the bolo, where he'd wind his arm up and then come with the uppercut. And I might revive Crusher.
Okay.
See if there's any copyright infringement or the trademarks up. Sorry.
I'd have to get a brush cut.
So if we see
I'd like to see
Crusher
it
debut in TNA wrestling in the
Marty
coming
Gold,
months,
Gold's
we'll
going to
see.
go crazy. Marty Gold sends me updates on Crusher events. I think there's a annual Crusher festival in Milwaukee.
That's awesome.
And I think Leonard, my brother, might have gone to it one time.
That's awesome. There's also, I put Polar Bear in there. Polar Punisher would be a fun one. Frostbite Fury or Arctic Avenger are probably my favorite ones. Glacier Goliath?
No.
Keep it simple.
Like those,
Crusher.
Yeah, Crusher.
Okay,
Like
we go with Crusher. Okay, I can take that.
or the
My last
coconut crusher.
Coconut.
There you go. Combine them.
He's never gonna live it down now.
Boom.
He's never gonna live it down. Okay, my last question. Who is someone you would like to sit courtside with for a Sea Bears game? Could be anybody, alive, dead.
You know what? It's I'm just finishing the master class with Coach K, and I love sitting with people like that. I mean, even watching a game with Mike Taylor, because I don't really understand the sport. And it's very different when you sit with a coach versus a player. So when who would I like to sit with? You know, is it a player? Is it a coach? Bill Jackson.
Oh, okay.
I just read 11 Rings a few weeks ago.
I just finished it.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
From North Dakota.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
I had a high school teacher that went to university with him. She was on the track team, and she's like, they were casual friends, I guess, but that was like at the, in the 2000s, he was coaching the Lakers at the time. Like, she became the coolest teacher immediately. I was like, I would lead every conversation with that. I know Phil Jackson. Yeah, he'd be
It'd be neat. It'd be interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good. Well, that wraps up Target Time. So, David, thank you so much for doing that. You sweated out with us. We got your wrestling name.
Have you ever seen that? Skit from the old Second City where Martin Short is playing a character being interviewed by 60 Minutes?
No.
And they've got somebody playing the old school, like Morley Safer, or those original 60 Minutes journalists. And Martin Short is being interviewed by them, and he's like pretending he's got nothing, like, there's nothing bad to say, but he's sweating profusely and he's chain smoking. No, I don't have anything to say. That's how I felt coming into Target, into rapid fire here.
Well, that was our goal, so that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, we got.
I'm unscathed. I didn't have to.
Got through it. There you go.
Thanks. And okay, and you know what? Like, seriously, everyone appreciates. We all totally appreciate it. It's given us legitimacy to have an arm's length podcast like this, and we're really super grateful to both of you. And Taylor, you be safe. Like, wear a life jacket, and take some Band-Aids in the suitcase.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate that for sure. And yes,
have a great trip.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, my mom has made sure that the Band-Aids are coming. So don't worry, I'm covered there. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, poor Pat has to deal with this. Her son's leaving for so long, uncharted territory. You're such a stressful son, but you know what? She's a saint, so
I know.
She's good with it.
And Joey, we will see you in the upcoming U Sport season, probably. Yes.
Yes, as far as I know, yes. So
in what is now known as not U Sport anymore, it's GPAC returns.
GPAC returns.
Yeah, with the way the thing is scheduled this year.
Oh yeah,
we're basically back to the Great Plains Athletic Conference, and we're playing Regina and Brandon and Winnipeg and Manitoba 30 times each.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense from a travel standpoint. I do like the rivalries. I do feel like this is probably the best time for that to happen, particularly with the U of M and UW being, well, even Brandon being so strong. I actually don't mind that. I think it helps build the rivalries, and you might actually get a little more fans when you can get familiar with the other teams. Because they get a good turnout, both schools, depending on the game for sure in the night, but there have been some crowds there that really surprised me. So I'm all for that. If you can build those rivalries and get to know the other team where it's a little more interesting to go out, and it's not just, the CBLs help with that a lot. I remember when UVic came up, Diego Mafia didn't play, unfortunately, that game, but there was a huge buildup to finally see Simon Hildebrand go up against Diego Mafia in a Canada West game. And, it never happened, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the CBLs help with that, but I think this is a good step by the organization to try and get more attention on it. So I'm looking forward to it, but I was looking forward to this too. Thank you so much for coming on. you were not the bottom of the barrel as much as you'd like to think. So we really wanted to have you on in the last episode and kind of cap things up. And congratulations on all your success. I mean, this has been a really fun thing. We're appreciative of the opportunity to have a podcast like this. Taylor and I talked about this before the basketball team ever came, that if a pro team did indeed come to Winnipeg, we would start a podcast. And we did that. And, being able to cover a pro basketball team has been a lot of fun. So it's been awesome from our standpoint, and appreciate everything that you've done, and especially coming on here and chopping it up with us for, over an hour. So sorry for taking up so much of your time on a Friday morning.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you to Sea Bear Nation. And spring will be along soon. The Bears will be back in from the ice and ready to hunt in the CEBL.
Love it. We'll see it then.
Right
okay, thanks.
Go nuts.
And that was our interview with the owner of what could have been the Coconuts, but it is the Sea Bears, and I think everybody's happy about that. But that was hilarious. The Coconuts. Now that I think about it, though, the merchandising would have been awesome on that. But
would have been nuts.
Would have been nuts. But that was what an interesting, just the whole path. It was kind of interesting to learn about the path that he took and all the different, avenues that he's taken in sports and even beyond sports, like just so accomplished. But pro wrestling, man, I think this is the pro wrestling halftime show. I'm not sure I'm against that. I think that's something that should be incorporated in Sea Bears games.
Absolutely. I wrote down my 5 target time questions, and the wrestling one was on there, and we're in the middle of it. I'm like, you know what? That's a stupid question. Like I should think of something else. Like that's dumb. And asked the question, ended up being great. We ended up talking about wrestling for 30 minutes. It felt like, in hypothetical wrestling names and whatnot. So yeah, no, that was a lot of fun, and we kind of took up a lot of David's time. We usually try to be 30-ish minutes, maybe an hour tops with the guest, but there was lots to talk about. It went for over an hour, and probably could have done another hour, right? Could have talked about his involvement with the Thunder back in the day. What do you learn from that? And, all the roles he's had with the Bombers and whatnot. I mean, when he was really involved with the club, I mean, things were looking really bad. Like there was a time when they were like millions of dollars in debt. There was a fear that they were going to have to fold. And David was one of the people who played a big role in getting them back on their feet. And that's why he has that nice Bombers Hall of Fame ring on his hand that he was wearing during our chat. So yeah, there's tons of things we could ask them and whatnot, but yeah, that was fun. And it was also really kind of respected how kind of open he was about Teddy and what happened there and whatnot. I threw it out there and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see where he takes this, but he was pretty open about that whole thing and whatnot. So yeah, overall, that was a fun episode, fun way to end season 2 of Target Square Weekly.
Yeah, very grateful for David Asper's time and insight and being so open with the conversation. Great way to end the season. You're right. And you're off very soon to heading overseas for your 10-month adventure. You ready for it or what?
No, not at all. Haven't packed at all. I still got to organize.
When do you leave? Like, this is recorded on Friday, August 16th. When are you leaving?
Yeah, so I leave next Thursday, and this weekend I have a bunch of things and family things and whatever. So it's going to come down to the wire, folks. It's going to be, I leave 6 p.m. on August 22nd, and I'll probably finish packing at 3 p.m. on that day. But whatever.
Great.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to Toronto for a weekend. Like, you're going to Asia.
I know, for 10 months. So I honestly have no idea what to pack or how to pack or whatever, but I'll figure it out. Whatever. But yeah, no, it's bittersweet. Like I kind of said last episode, obviously very excited to do this trip, something I've wanted to do forever, but it's also bittersweet, right? Because this podcast has been, a highlight of my week, or every second week whenever we get around to banging one out. And covering the Bombers, the Sea Bears, curling, everything else is something I'm really proud and happy that I get to do and whatnot. So it's going to be a little bittersweet stepping away from that for 10 months, but it's also going to be really cool learning about new cultures, meeting new people, trying new things, and having a nice tan in the middle of winter while the rest of you are scraping your windows. Sorry to be a jerk and bring that up, but yeah. So I just got a mix of emotions kind of going on right now, but yeah, it's going to be awesome. for sure.
It's going to be fun, and you'll be back, and next year you'll have all the stories to come back on, a new appreciation for everything you do and you missed here. So I'm a little bit jealous. Everybody we talk to is also a little jealous that you're going on this trip, so that'll be a lot of fun, and I'll still be around, so you'll see me here and there. But also got to say thanks to everybody that's supported the podcast throughout the season, and even going back to last year. Podcast seeing significant growth, it seems, episode over episode, but especially from last year to this year. Appreciate all the support, everybody who's sharing the content and telling their friends about it. Continue to do that. We're very happy to be doing this and trying to bring some support, but it's our information, I should say, and insight, and keeping you up to date on the Sea Bears. But also we have a lot of fun doing it, and it's nice to get the support as well. And meeting up every week, but this is it for season 2. And we're kicking Taylor out to Asia. And if maybe he comes back.
One more thing
What's
before
that?
we run off to Asia. Because you're right. Like, I really do appreciate all the support we get from people and whatnot. And, it's kind of cool because when we first started this podcast, we did episode 1. I absolutely hated it, like how I did and sounded and whatever. And within the first couple of weeks, I was like, man, if Joey texts me right now saying, you know what, let's not do this, I would have been all over it, right? Like, my anxiety was through the roof, and whatever. But, just if anyone could take something from this, it's just like, if there's something that you're passionate about and you want to do a podcast on it, or a blog or whatever, or YouTube thing, whatever, just do it and like ride that wave of emotion, like get through those first couple of weeks or months, even year, when maybe you're having doubts and whatever, and just do it. So Joey, I'm really thankful that you weren't a wuss about it the first couple of weeks, like I was, and kept pushing me into whatever, because this has been so much fun, and it's super cool when people reach out to us on social media, or we see people at a Sea Bears game and whatever, and that's this has been awesome. So 2 years down, hopefully many more to go, and fun way to end season 2. But onwards and upwards, and season 3 will be just even better.
I told you it'd be fine. And when we started this whole thing, and see, it's all rewarding. And now we're going to have a huge Asian contingent as you go out on your sabbatical, which is really your way to grow the show and Sea Bears fandom in Asia.
It's a work trip.
And it's a work trip. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the boost next season in our geographical numbers. But no, it's been a lot of fun. And I feel like this year, it's more in our wheelhouse. It was feel like less experimentation in terms of how we were going to do this as year 1. Still some changes. You probably notice if you notice episode through episode, we'd add things here and there. But the draft being one that was a lot of fun too this year. Target time.
I won the last one, by the way. I won the last.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't bring that up last episode. But we are 1-1. So we go out on a tie. But and as always, reach out to us, right? We have the Instagram now for Target Score Weekly at Target Score Winnipeg, or at Target Score WPG is the handle. Target Score Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to email us, Taylor is at Taylor Allen 31 on socials. I'm at Joey Slattery TV. Hit us up. Love talking ball. Love talking Sea Bears and CBL and basketball in general. So love to hear from you. If you have feedback, support, ideas, love to hear them all. But thank you for being along the ride. Taylor, have fun in Asia. We'll see you next year.
Thanks, man. Take care, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram at Taylor Allen 31 and at Joey Slattery TV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.